dad was the senior carver. It was a heck of an undertaking. It was, as I recall, 26 feet across, weighed 20 tons, and they made pieces of the seal and put it all together, kind of like putting a puzzle together.
My family's company, Rich McFarland Cutstone, produced the seal that was originally on the Minneapolis Auditorium. It's rewarding to know that another generation of people are going to be able to see what true master craftsmanship is. It's just an amazing, amazing piece of artwork.
It's a monument to the city and its people, and I'm just happy that people will know who did it. So often these things get made and people don't know who did it, but it was Miles Patrick Cullen, my dad, who did that.
The auditorium was being torn down to make room for the new convention center at that time, and the city council and the mayor formally voted to preserve the seal because it was a significant piece of art, with the idea that it would be repurposed and reused in a future project. Linden Yards is a public works storage area, and we had to vacate part of that property, and I got contacted by a supervisor that there was the carvings out there, and I went out and looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, this is the city seal. All the pallets had deteriorated, but we did open some up and we could see the individual pieces, most of them in perfect shape or just had minor repairs that would need to be done, and so we decided to move them to a waterworks location and property where we knew they would be safe and secure. There was some discussion about appropriate use of the seal. I did engage Mary Altman, our public art manager, and she was very excited about finding a home for it, and so between the two of us, we said it really needs to be in the new city office building.
The seal was stored outdoors for around 30 years. They were initially covered with plastic, but over the years, the plastic degraded. Some of them had a lot of dark gray staining. Some of them had a lot of moss growing. It's made of Indiana limestone, which is a very durable material, which is why so many buildings are made out of it. Yeah. And so, despite being outdoors for so long, we really see very little damage from freeze-thaw cycles, and they were obviously pretty careful when deinstalling the stone from it. We rinsed off any leaves or loose debris and dirt that was on the surface, and then we used a detergent solution, and the sun will also help bleach any remaining staining away. There are also 5 missing pieces, so we'll be working with a stone carver to recreate those pieces.
This is what we call the difference between a stone carver and a sculptor. Now, a stone carver usually follows a line. Now, will it be a drawing? Will it be a rose? A sculptor will not follow any line. The seal is 26 feet in diameter, and there was a few missing pieces. They are part of an inner ring around the seal, and for some reason there was 4 pieces who were missing, and this is what I'm replacing. It's a molding going around the seal. I feel very connected in a way, the seal stayed en avant in French. I feel very proud. Being able to work on a project like that is a crowning achievement.
I'm Sage Mellon, and this is David Mellon, my father. We are here with Grazzini Brothers, and we are installing the Great Seal.
It's a real joy working with my daughter on these projects. The first 4 days was simply staring at the wall, sizing it up, trying to figure out the best way to start it. It started off with a center point, 17 feet up, 15 feet over, and then we spun a radius simply with a piece of wood and drew out the first radius, the inner circle, then the outer circle. And then on the lower, I call it the smiley face, but the bottom 2 pieces, it had to start off perfect. perfectly level, perfectly plumb. And once we install those first two pieces, everything else is actually stacked really well. The part I've found to be the trickiest is, since this thing was already installed once and then it was taken down, they had to saw cut all the joints to get it removed. And that's made it a little bit difficult because the pieces aren't exactly the same as they were when they first installed it. So they're somewhat out of square. By the time we get done with it, it's going to look like one big
Peace.
It's going to look like one big piece.
The City Seal is used to authenticate official acts and proceedings that are done by the city. So it ties to heraldic times when people were not necessarily literate, but the seal of the king or the seal of the court was used to say this is an authentic document, an authentic record. And that tradition carried over into the United States. So the City Seal serves as sort of the official signature of the city on its official actions and its official proceedings. The City Seal was designed in 1878, and so a lot of the elements within the seal reflect the city at that time in its history. So you'll see the suspension bridge that crosses the mighty Mississippi River in the background, the first suspension bridge to bridge over the Mississippi. You see the city skyline at the time. You see the smokestacks of industry and commerce developing in the state's largest city. You also see a lot of the first buildings around the river showing development. In the foreground are some of the products of the river and of the city that rose to prominence. So you see a circular saw, you see a pile of the lumber, you see flour and wheat and bags that talk about how the city really developed around the Mississippi River. At the top, emblazoned in the sun rays, you'll see our motto called En Avant. It reflects that the French were the first European settlers in this area, and it's French for forward or progress, and has become the city's motto. In today's world, being a very progressive city, we're always looking for how we move forward together.
I'm Mary Altman, and I lead the public art team for the City of Minneapolis. In planning the art for the new building, we knew that the Dakota story needed to be told as well, which is why we were really fortunate to commission the work behind me by Marlena Miles called Protecting the Generations. So the City Seal portrays the European American values, commerce, and industry of the time that the image was adopted by the City Council. It doesn't portray the commerce that happened prior to that, which is the commerce of the Dakota people and other Native people. The imagery in the seal portrays St. Anthony Falls, and in telling the story of the seal, it's important to also acknowledge that that place, St. Anthony Falls, holds a special significance to the Dakota people who know it as a Wamni Yamni.
My name is Jewel Arcorn. I'm from Sisituan and Sichungo, so Dakota and Lakota. With the Dakota people inhabiting here, there was, the Mandan, Hidatsa, the whole chunk, the Ojibwe people. Water is a relative of ours, in that it cleanses us, it nourishes us, it takes care of us. We know there's a cosmology that goes along with this particular area. Not a lot of people know that this was a sacred island, that women came here to have their children. Because Minnesota has such an incredible food shed, there was a lot of trading going on, and the Mississippi River was our freeway. The wild rice beds that existed along the river, in the river, the cranberry beds, all of those things were here for cultural identity, to recover from genocide. Everybody needs to understand the whole story with the Spirit Island, with the Owamni Yamani. I think as we think about the narrative for all of Minnesota, I'd love to see more of these stories on the seal.